Hey, how's it going? It's me, your favorite friendly neighborhood lowlife enjoyer. What have I got for you today? I would like to talk to you about Lightning Trap Trickster and its potential for being a league starter. So I at first tried this out on Pathfinder because I saw a what I am pretty sure, and so are my viewers. Some of my viewers are pretty sure was a troll build because they basically linked like almost no items and and said that it was their fastest clear ever. It was funny to read through, but I thought it was so funny that it was like, you know what, I'll give it a try, and it was actually a pretty fun playthrough over here on the Deadeye because of ricochet and additional projectiles. What's not to like? But it really didn't serve us any purpose. It was just kind of a meme. So we decided to give it another honest try as not a saboteur. I'll talk about that later. But we tried to give it an honest playthrough as a shadow. And I was drawn to Trickster for a couple of reasons. I have a card here that I'm going to try and stick to, so please forgive me if you see me looking down. The reasoning behind this build, it's mainly to negate the need for slave drivers mitts. They provide a lot of quality of life for a lot of trap or I think it is just trap builds. I'm not sure if it's mines. I haven't played mines in a long time. Maybe that's up next. I'd also like to try Poison Reaver potentially for Pathfinder. But I'm digressing. I'm sorry. Reasoning. I would like this to be as cheap as possible. I want it to be a league starter. I want the uniques that I recommend in this guide to be before level 40. Or the requirements to equip them to be pre-40. And I want, the defensive layers that we do have to be easily accessible, such as suppression and evasion. Everything else is just kind of up in the air. It's like a blank canvas at that point. There's a couple of different variations that I found interesting. I haven't personally explored all of them, but I have explored my favorite, Low Life. And yeah, that's kind of the real reason. If you want it in a nutshell, I think slave drivers mitts are overrated and overpriced. So, moving on. Let's talk a little bit about what's in front of us right now. That would be the passive tree. So, this is what it's going to look like right around level 97 if you decide to kill all bandits. We are pretty hungry for skill points. We wouldn't mind getting the elemental damage from these early nodes, but really I think we're so hungry that we would much rather just save those skill points. But while you're leveling, you should absolutely be making use of this drop-down window that I've created for you. I've broken it down up to Act 5, and then up to Act 5, you should probably have a good feeling as to like what you want. But up until then, you're going to be working towards Blood Siphon so that you don't get stunned, and then for damage you want Saboteur and Elemental Focus early on. From there, you're going to move out towards a little quality of life with Expeditious Munitions and Cold-Hearted Calculation. Once you gain the ability to put on auras, such as Clarity and Summon Skitterbots, you will then work towards Charisma. A lot of people don't think that this many travel nodes is worth Charisma, but you'll see why in just a second. And the reason is that we're going to be moving over towards Master Sapper. You could also path over here towards Piercing Shots if you really wanted the Pierce, but I don't think it's actually necessary. It felt perfectly fine. And you're going to be moving over here towards Master Sapper with Sentinel. Then by Act 4, you should have Elemental Mastery. Hits have 25% chance to treat enemy monster elemental resistances as inverted. Up until this point, you should probably skip some rare monsters that have just like life regeneration out the wazoo. You can totally kill lightning resistant monsters, but it takes a little while longer, and I'm not really sure if that time investment is worth it versus just, making a mad dash over here for elemental mastery and forgetting everything else before it. It's up to you. It depends on what kind of a player you are. I personally really love full clearing almost all my maps. I just think that is, what I like to do. I don't know if it's actually good. I don't even know if it's worth defending, but it's what I do for better or for worse. After that point, if you wanted my personal recommendation on what you should focus on, it's probably spell suppression. You want to get your spell suppression and life in order, maybe eke out a little bit of damage if you can. From there, it's fit in your necessary auras, get some crit chance and more crit multi wherever you can. Power charges, there's maybe a argument to be had for this frenzy, additional frenzy charge right here. And I just personally think that Mark the Prey is one of the most valuable mark clusters in the game because of not only increasing your damage to that marked target by a huge amount, it prevents all life regeneration, which can be, a problem depending on where you are on your progression. We have some jewel sockets available to us. You don't have to go the projectile damage if you still need the resistances. It's nice that we benefit from both sides. If you wanted more life, you can totally do this. And you're obviously going to need to sacrifice some things in another location. Maybe spell suppression, maybe a little bit of crit, maybe a little bit of aura reservation. Who knows? You have tons of choices, and I'm going to leave that up to you. Beyond that, I have included some passive trees for a default life, low life version. In order for you to do Captain Lance's Balbala Brutal Restraint tech, you would need 25% increased flash charges gained from somewhere. I think it's incredibly convenient that those are easily accessible via working towards replenishing remedies. If you ended up getting yourself a very nice Brutal Restraint denoted to the service of Balbala that had 20% increased flash charges gained. I wasn't going to put in a specific jewel that had those modifiers on it, so I just described it in the drop down. So I hope you'll forgive me. Abby's home, welcome home. But ultimately, it should be easily understandable that you need at least 20% to drop these two nodes. And then if you were to get like a GG Brutal Restraint with Balbala, it would be 30% increased flash charges gained. You would probably have to have it on Master Sapper, Revenge of the Hunted, and Charisma if you weren't going low life, or Void Barrier if you were going low life. And from there, you could take out this last little point, but I think it's more likely that you're going to find a jewel that is 20% instead of 30%. But I thought it would be worthwhile to mention. That about does it for the trees that I have included. We're going to move towards some of the items that I used while leveling. I also included a tree for the low life gear that I'm currently using on my character. I really don't think too many people will care about that, as this is meant to be a leveling guide, but I thought it, again, worthwhile to include. Get yourself a weapon. I don't care if it's a scepter, a wand, or a dagger. As long as it's got +1 to level of all lightning spell gems, then you're in the clear. Added lightning damage to spells is also very nice. Spirit shields are what you would want, as we benefit heavily from an energy shield defensive layer. You can also get +1 to level of all lightning spell gems on this. Resistances, life, energy shield, you name it. It would be good. A helmet. Honestly, I'm not sure if this is the piece that you want your spell suppression on, but it's what I put it on. You could use a lion pelt if you didn't want to benefit fully from Escape Artist, or if you were, kind of in a pinch and like you had spell suppression here but not there, kind of a thing. Just know that you don't have to, be perfect. You can work your way towards that perfection incrementally. Body armor, you should be using a Sadist Garb. It's just a huge amount of evasion rating, a huge amount of energy shield, and it's an extra rare. I tried finding unique items for our chest slot. I mean, Skin of the Loyal, Skin of the Lords, they're really expensive. They're really endgame now. They used to be easily accessible, but they are certainly not anymore. So I didn't think to include them. Thunderfist Murder Mitts are not really a leveling unique. However, if you wanted another pair of leveling gloves, you could probably use Dodra's Tenure, since we don't really care about that cast speed, unless you're marking. You might feel that when you're marking something with Dodra's Tenure on. But Thunderfist, they're really great. It can turn your Lightning Spire trap, which is added into our build for additional single target when we need it, via that level 30 added lightning damage, and then increased effective lightning ailments is always appreciated. It easily pumps us towards 50% shock on most things. Deerstalker boots, we get them very early on. The level 15 trap is a little bit of a hindrance when it comes to socket pressure, as we won't be putting our main damage skill in there, but you could put lightning trap in there if you did not have your thunder fists yet, or you can, in my recommendation, put your auras in there, as they cannot be supported by a trap support gem. And main reason for taking these is level accessibility, movement speed, and the trap throwing speed. The next would be a power amulet, in my opinion, because we just need that mana regeneration. It just makes everything feel a little bit better. If you needed stats, then you could go for like an amber amulet for the strength, or I don't really think you'll be needing any intelligence or dexterity. Though don't forget, because we take Mage Bane, dexterity does add up for our spell suppression, so that could help ease your socket pressure a little bit. Or not socket pressure, sorry, your modifier pressure, if you were to get dexterity haphazardly. Praxis. This is here to illustrate that, you know, mana per second, it's appreciated. That's why I said that Alira is an option if you don't want to kill all bandits, as we do benefit from crit multi. We would love the resistances, and we certainly would love the mana per second. We don't really care about anything else on this, besides the minus total mana cost of skills. It's just a leveling unique. It feels good because you probably won't have the ringcraft to make yourself something similar with more useful modifiers, and the prefix and suffixes beyond those two modifiers. Sunblast. Here is something that is really important for our build. I would dare say this is necessary beyond the campaign. If you want to just get the campaign done, you're probably going to have a great time with this build. I don't think Sunblast is going to be required for you to blow most things up. But if you really want a massive burst of quality of life and damage, I would recommend Sunblast. You get it at level 37. It gives you a little bit of resistance. All of those things that I mentioned previously, besides the resistance, comes from the modifier skills, which throw traps up to 2 additional traps. Sorry, I think I missed a throw. Throw up to 2 additional traps. And yeah, that's just insane. It's like having cluster traps support, but without the downside of it. So highly recommend that you get yourself a Sunblast as soon as possible. The reduced trap duration is kind of a quality of life buff in my opinion, because I don't really want to wait for my traps to be triggered by an enemy, even though we do benefit from that due to Master Sapper, and we also benefit from it via high explosives and our skitterbots. Our skitterbots enable us to still benefit from those, despite Sunblast saying that traps cannot be triggered by enemies. So while I think it is a quality of life buff, because we no longer have to wait for enemies to trigger those traps, they just have a very low duration and then explode after that duration is up, we are still able to benefit fully from the passive points we have allocated via our tree because of skitterbots triggering things in additional time, which does pull from the enemy stepping or triggering those traps. I'm not sure on the specifics on that, but I can guarantee you we are never without charges. Other than that, get yourself a life flask. I don't care if it's a divine life flask, just make sure it's got corrupted blood immunity on it so that you don't die to corrupted blood until you have your corrupted blood implicit jewel. Who knows when you could get that? You could be lucky. You could get a really good one. You could get a really bad one. You may not even care about it if you have enough life to pull from and you just feel like your reaction time is good enough. I think that about covers the leveling gear and uniques. I might go over a few others when I peruse the notes section again, but let's go over our Ascendancy order, shall we? I decided to do one step ahead first because I thought it would make throwing traps feel a little bit better. It did, and it certainly provided that extra defensive layer of that, almost temporal chains on things that were getting near us. Other than that, I would say it's a pretty close call between whether you want Spellbreaker first or if you want Polymath first. I would honestly say you would feel really strong with Polymath early on. Like one step ahead, then Polymath, and then you would work towards Spellbreaker. But missing 20% chance to suppress spells damage could also feel really bad. I personally chose to do one step ahead, Escape Artist, Polymath, and Spellbreaker. But I think it's up in the air. It's really personal preference. Does throwing traps feel bad to you right now? Then go one step ahead. Do you feel you lack damage? Go Polymath. Do you feel that you need more defensive layers? Go Spellbreaker. Each of these wings solves a different problem for our build. It's a very, very good Ascendancy when you have very little to work with. Same goes for Saboteur, but I personally think Pyromaniac is just better suited to a Slave Driver playstyle. And I wanted this to rely more heavily on mana and just, what if you really just got unlucky or something like that? I won't beat you over the head with the Ascendancy ideas. Feel free to experiment if you like. Heartstopper probably has a lot of defensive value if you didn't want one step ahead, or you're probably going to be taking Polymath no matter what. So if anything, play around with these 6 instead of Polymath. Alternate quality gems. We're going to go over to the skills section and we are going to look at the leveling Lightning Spire first. Ultimately, these are probably the 4 gems you're going to be leveling with. Lightning Spire Trap, Controlled Destruction, Trap and Mind Damage, and then Elemental Focus. You could also do Swift Assembly or Pierce. But for pound per trap, this is going to do the most damage for you. Or sorry, no, I need to change this. I'm going to change this over to Swift Assembly. There we go. And then let's go over to with Anomalous Faster Projectiles. This is what I really... Oh wait, I'm silly. Derp. 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 I'm ruining my own video. That was Lightning Spire Trap. Not Lightning Trap. Oh no! Well, I'll fix it after the video's over. But ignore this. It's not Empower. Elemental Focus there was correct. I just remembered it. Oh no. Oh no, I'm so silly. But yeah, so Lightning Trap. Faster Projectiles, Anomalous. It says leveling if instead of I'm brain farting because I just got so jumbled. Instead of faster projectiles while you're leveling, you should be using Controlled Destruction, wherever it may be. Or you can use something else up here, like Awakened, or sorry, not Awakened, but Lightning Penetration or Increased Critical Damage. But I'm going to leave this as is, just so that you can look at that. Yeah, this derailed me a little bit. I'm sorry about that, guys. But ultimately, the only alternate quality gem that we care about is the anomalous faster projectiles due to it changing our gameplay in a meaningful way, which is having a 60% chance to have those projectiles return for us. It's pretty fun. Moving on. Leveling tips. So we're finally going to go over to the notes section. I've included a foreword for some of the purposes and other descriptors, maybe ideas that could help you move away from Lightning Trap if you didn't enjoy this specific skill and just wanted to try out a Trickster on a different trap. Yada 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 yada. I won't bore you with that. Leveling uniques. This kind of goes over the modifier ranges that we care about, and I color-coded it to let you know the feeling that I have associated with that numerical value. Green obviously means good, red means bad, so yellow is in between. From here, I added a couple of more leveling uniques in case you came across something interesting or had any wonders pre-level 40 about what you could, equip to twink out, you big spender. Dodra's Tenure, Algor Mortis, Kikuzaru, Call of the Brotherhood, Parandus Signet, Gold Rim, Azeneth Mark, Honor Home, Karui Ward, Shaper Seed, Victoria's Acuity. Those are the ones I found interesting and low level. Here's some Act 1 tips. You should be looking for a green, red, green 3-link item for Explosive Trap. Green, red is also fine. Green, green is also fine. Those 3 sockets would be detailed over here in the skills section. If you check the the drop down, I have it broken down for you. Everything you hover over at every stage will tell you what you need for that Act 1 leveling session. So I hope this helps in that regard. And then once you complete Act 1, or at least once you get to Mervile's Cave, you should be looking for, or by then have, a blue, green, green, or a blue, green, blue item with 3 links. And that will be for your Lightning Trap. I have also detailed that. So, yeah. A little bit of a boost there for you in that portion of the game. I highly recommend that you get Sniper's Mark, as it's just going to make single target feel that much better until you can get your hands on something like Lightning Spire Trap. Act 2, this is kind of the way I always do it. I recommend that you rush over to Helena so that you can get your new aura reservation, whether it be a Herald. For us it's Skitterbots, so choose Skitterbots and reserve it ASAP. It's just more damage. Kill all bandits or help Alira, I've already said it, but I wrote it down here for you in case you forget, or if you don't remember to check the configuration. This is a really light configuration. I haven't, made it so that we're hitting a boss. I haven't maxed our shock chance. I just, saw things that I thought were active for us and decided to tick them. Going back to the notes, Act 2 tips. If Oak is giving you trouble, here are some gems that you could throw in or use to either lower his resistances, just make him take outright more damage, snapshot your damage for the duration of charges or something like that, give yourself a snapshot via Arcane Cloak or Galvanic Field. Those are all available after you, I think, kill the spider in the Western Forest. So, as I do it, I go Helena, save Helena from the Chamber of Sins, and then I kill, I forget his name, Karst? I don't know. But you kill the bandit on the furthermost right side. Then I go over and either help Alira or kill Alira. And then I kill the giant spider in the Weaver's Chamber. And then I go and kill Oak. Because by the time I reach Oak, I want as much damage as I can get, as many of the rewards from Act 2 as I can get, because he has a fair amount of life regeneration, and that's kind of a pain sometimes. Another big thing that I forgot to mention in Act 1, sorry, I'll just conclude, I'll wrap this all up in like a, leveling tips section instead of like 1-2. When you're fighting Brutus, make sure you have 2 mana flasks or some portal scrolls on you. It's just gonna, make it smooth. Orb of Storms can also be a little bit of a damage boost, but you're not going to be using a lightning spell for a hot second. Unless you're doing like Storm Mines, but I chose not to do that because I hate mines. Do the library when you can. Grab shield charge from it. We already talked about Ascendancy, a Pantheon, Brian King, and Rollicash, pretty standard. Alternate quality gems, I detailed it there for you so that you don't have to come back to the video. Timeless Jewel. If you're going low life, this is the only Timeless Jewel that you should be considering, as in my opinion, you want your chest to be as free and loose as possible, and I think a Balbala Brutal Restraint enables that for low life, as all you need is a little bit of increased flash charges gained, and you have permanent uptime of your Coruscating Elixir. Moving on. That's only if you want to go low life. You can do whatever you want if you're not going low life with your Timeless Jewel. For Annoints. Annoints, I chose to go with Piercing Shots, simply because it was cheap. Black, opalescent, and silver oil. You could argue that silver isn't really that cheap, but I would find it far more farmable than a golden oil, or 2 golden oils, or 3 golden oils, or whatever the hell it is. Yeah, it's like 2 golden oils for Vengeance Cascade, and everyone was saying like, well, you can farm this eventually. Then you know what? You can farm Piercing Shots. You'll feel fine. I detailed some other ones. If you didn't like Piercing Shots, or if you wanted to path over to it, or if you've already got your helmet and glove crafts, like if you're not using Thunder Fists and you're using a pair of rare gloves that have increased trap throwing speed and additional pierce and the like, my recommendation would be either Heartseeker Sovereignty or Heart of Thunder. Heartseeker is crit multi, Sovereignty is additional mana reservation, efficiency, and effective auras that you have active, and then Heart of Thunder is lightning penetration with additional lightning damage. I'm sure there's other options. See what oils you got. Cluster Jewels. I did not include these. I chose not to include them because I find that rolling them is a little bit of a pain and can take up a lot of your time. So we decided to make a tree that does not utilize them at all. I'm sure there are some Cluster Jewel notables that we would appreciate. I think there's one that gives us Arcane Surge and a little bit of crit multi, right? Would probably feel pretty good. I just wasn't sure that we could get that reliably, timely, or if we could really be happy with ourselves for allocating one of these Cluster Jewels, because they're close, but not as close as we would want, right? That's my thoughts on those. We're going to go back to the notes section, and Suppression Cap is one of the reasons... Oh, sorry, I'm yawning. It's late here. Suppression Cap is one of the reasons why I wanted to try this on Trickster as well. Due to Spellbreaker giving us a free 20% spell suppression, and then being hit by spells has a 50% chance to engage our energy shield regeneration, I thought it would just really make gearing super easy. It would alleviate a lot of that pressure. Like instead of needing, tier 1 modifiers or tier 2 modifiers across all of our pieces, we really only need 1 or 2 pieces with spell suppression now. In game, I only needed 10% on my helmet. I'll take off my helmet and show you right now. It says it has 14%. Right now it says I have 100% chance to suppress spell damage. This is the exact same gear I am using in my low life setup. But for some reason it does not say I have 100% chance to suppress spell damage with my tree. So I'm not sure why that is, but I'll go ahead and show for you in game that I do indeed have 100% increased spell suppression chance. And if I were to take this off, it's 14% that was removed there. I have 90%. So I wrote it down for you in the notes that you should only really need 10% from your gear at the end of the day. But just in case, I made the number at the top of the description 20%. Just in case I'm like glazed over anything or missed something. But I've gone over it in the calcs and stuff like that, and it just doesn't really seem to add up the same way it does for me in game. But it's not super important. I don't need to die on that hill. Here's some of the variations. Slave driver's mitts. I would recommend going different ascendancy at that point. Though, honestly, I don't think that it would be warrantless to experiment with slave drivers on Trickster. It's just, I don't know if that's what you want to do comparatively as, what's his name? Saboteur. Another variation would be the low life that I'm currently enjoying. There's another variation that is poison. You could go Cosprees and then a Voltaxic Rift, which are absolutely not starter items. And Anomalous faster projectiles or something like that. You could change your Ascendancy over to something else. I don't know what. Pathfinder or Assassin or something like that. It would take a huge revamp, but I do think that this skill is able to be played with a very similar tree from either Ranger or Shadow as a poison lightning trap build. I listed some of the deficiencies as usual. I don't know why I stalled. Physical mitigation is a problem for us. We have, I think right now, about none. And yeah, it hurts when we get hit by physical damage. I've decided to, just pump up my energy shield as high as I can and usually kill things as fast as I can, and it's working for us for the most part. I was having some trouble recording the footage because I wanted a map that was like 200% quantity or higher with like monsters with more life and damage and accuracy. Those were going to be like the hardest modifiers for us to get past. I was able to complete the maps, but I wasn't able to get footage to where I didn't die, and that didn't leave me happy, so I decided to just lower the difficulty until I was able to get through a map without dying to give you guys a fair showcase. Yeah, you could use a different aura, such as Determination, if you wanted to bump that up. If you wanted, you could use like a Tinker Skin, and then you're going to get endurance charges that'll help out with resistances. It's not going to be permanent resistances, but they may be there when you need them if you get cursed or something. You could also get the, like I said, physical damage mitigation from those endurance charges that you so desperately need or want. I'm not sure if you need it, right? We're very hungry for skill points, mana regeneration, crit and crit multi, and auras. It's pretty simple. Just thought it was necessary to describe in a deficiency section. Since we make use of Ghost Shroud, you need to remember that -2 evasion modifiers, and that's flat evasion, can really fuck your shit up. You need your energy shield. It's a huge part of your defensive capabilities, and if you lose all of your evasion, then Ghost Shroud prevents you from regenerating all of your energy shield. You could have 5,000, and if you don't have enough evasion, you're not even going to get close. Probably obvious. Again, I think it's necessary to include. And ground degeneration and dots. Dots aren't as much of a problem as ground degeneration. The dots can be solved by a myriad of solutions: Lathe Shade, life regeneration, immunity via some unique rings while you're still progressing, and you were to get like a lucky corruption maybe. Purity of Elements can remove a lot of those ailments and ignites. Soul of Arakali, Abarath, Shikari. Each one of those solves a different part of number 4 within the deficiency section. You could take Steel Skin out of your cast when damage taken setup if you're upset that it doesn't activate when you need it most. Corrupted Blood, and the reason why I mentioned the Steel Skin thing is that, in case you didn't know, Steel Skin removes bleeding. Corrupted Blood can only be solved via chugging a flask with the corrupt suffix or having a rare corrupted jewel that grants corrupted blood immunity. This is true of every single build in the game. I think it's necessary to include because, you know, if you find yourself dying, I don't want you to get upset. I want you to be able to understand the greatest problems that you'll be facing, and then dependent upon the visual stimuli, you can break it down about like, well, that looked like a bleed, well, that looked like a poison, you know, it was green or red or you know, whatever. Right? It looked fiery, something like that. Um, you'll learn how to apply the information I've given you here. And as per usual, we're at the end of the descriptions. I had another little note down here, but I'm not sure what it says. I think it said Annoints. But yeah, we're at the end of the guide. Deaths. Not always relevant, but I think it's important to include. As of writing this, I have died 43 times on this character. So, guys, I hope you give this a try, as I found this to be a very smooth playthrough. Let me know if we need Sunblast or not. Let me know if you find any other interesting choices. Don't forget to join the Discord so that you can figure out whenever I'm working on something like this next, or if you want to know what other games I'm playing. I've been enjoying a lot of old school RuneScape lately. And don't forget to check out the Twitch channel, as I stream every single day. Not always at the same time. I'm a little bit of a sporadic dog when it comes to that, but nonetheless, I stream every day for roughly 5 to 7 hours. And that is going to be at the end of this video as well. So, I hope you had fun. I hope this guide helps you enjoy Path of Exile cheaply. And I will see you guys next time. Peace!